Now, just while the panel are getting themselves comfortable, three pillars has been talked about already, but I'm going to change the three pillars to the three pillars of the KSA Vision 2030. Now, the outcome and the objective is to reach 100 million visitors by 2030. Already in 2024, there were 30 million international travellers, an increase of 9.5%. And with domestic tourism as well, the figure of 100 million has already been achieved. So this is really dynamic. And that feeds into the three pillars of creating a vibrant society, a vibrant society, a thriving economy, and an ambitious nation. And I think we're well on target to achieve that. Within the discussions, we'll be looking at how the Kingdom has a very robust crisis management and crowd management systems already in place and protocols based on experiences from the Hajj. Now, how can this be interfaced into what we see coming in the future, particularly within Riyadh, with the Expo 2030, more musical events, etc., coming into the arena? So I'd like to move on to the first question, which will be for Dr. Ahmed. Now, mass crowds, we've talked about the impact of tourism, but we can't forget the workplace. And, mass crowds aren't just a concern for events, but, when we look and get into the intricacies of workplace environments, you've got some good experience to share with us with regards to a project on a shipyard with 30 to 35,000 employees. So could you share that experience with us, please?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and it's a very good question and challenging subject. Here in this question, actually, when you are working in a shipyard, you are looking to around 30 to 35,000 employees working within 12 million square meters area. And most likely, and that's the normal practice, that they will be coming from different regions of the world with different culture, different language, with different behavior. So you need to look into three pillars here. One of them is the preparation. The second is the system. And the third is the people itself. So when you are looking to preparation, it is a complex stage where you have to consider risk assessment, then risk management for that event. You have to study the aspect of the place, the aspect of the people, and the event itself, the nature of the event, and put all control measures in place. Then you have to also divide that event to stages, and each stage it should have a kind of control, start and an end, and also observe all of the hot issues within that stage, provide the solutions. Such area and such topic need professional people who has an experience in this. Now, Saudi Arabia is leading in this area because we have Hajj and Umrah, and this is happening every year. Umrah is happening every day, and Hajj once a year, around 4 million people in a very small area coming from every region in the planet with different background. Educational background is also different, whether high or low, and also the culture itself. So successfully, since ever until now, Saudi government did very well in this area. Now, taking this concept and move it to shipyard, we need first to deliver the need and assist what exactly we need in the outcome of each day. So safety of people, safety process, and safety of asset. Now, we finish with the preparation because we already covered it. So we'll go for the systematic approach. Now, the system, you need to have a surveillance system, you need to have an alarm system, you need to have a very active system like fire system, sprinklers, and all of this stuff. And then you need to have a passive system, which is implementing during the construction, like fire protection system for walls and for asset and what you call it, all of these stuff, which is anti-fire or resistance for fire. By applying that, now you need to also take in consideration the people behavior and how they will act during crisis or during problems. For me as a specialist in this area, I try from the first day to break the ice between me and the crowd. And I introduce myself to them not only as a VP, but as a friend who can help them during this crisis. I used to do a town hall talk almost on a monthly basis or sometimes a weekly basis according to any incident. And I hear people and I try to be a friend of them so I can lead them during this kind of crisis and they will listen to me. Understanding where people come from, it gives you a big support how to deal with that situation and how to utilize them for yourself. Another aspect which is you should take in consideration, it's training. So you have to provide the training, and I try to do that as an induction. In the induction day, we try to show the emergency response plan. We try to show the color coding for the emergency response team. We try to show some basic things regarding first aid, regarding firefighting, regarding quick response. Now, making people ready as a crowd, it is meaning a lot of drills and different scenarios, medical or fire or security or safety. So you need to take this, and sometimes you should take the consideration of nature by storms, high winds, wherever, heat, like in summer. We are approaching summer right now. So you need to consider drills and write a scenario. So this is part of your emergency response plan. Now, if I will ask some of my colleagues here, and they said, okay, tomorrow we are going to camp somewhere in Khurais, and I would like every one of you to bring something so we will make our event successful. We will all meet in that area, and all of us will bring tea and coffee, and that's it. And
Can I just pick up on that question? You've mentioned communication, training, etc. These are very, very key points. And if it's okay, if I can move on, because it links nicely into the question for Majed. Now,
thank you. Sorry.
No problem. I've been very fortunate to follow Majid's career over the years. We both worked together at Bureau Happold back in quite a few years ago, and it's a pleasure to be on the stage with you, Majed. And you've studied human behaviour, how this can be managed both practically and theoretically through CFD modelling simulations. And you've written papers and done studies on the influence of cultural behaviour, in particular the dress code and the Arabic dress code with regards to evacuation, means of escape. Could you just share your experiences and insights in that area, please?
Absolutely, and the pleasure is all mine, Peter. Now, just a lot of the times when we're talking about human behavior during evacuation, that's kind of being just ignored a little bit because it's not, let's say, like fire science or anything like that, where it's governed by like calculations, specific equations, and it basically just governed by physics. The human behavior, and as Rob said, that every building is safe until you put people in it. So it's a little bit difficult to predict people movement and evacuation, how they're going to do it. So one thing to look at, especially let's say from a point of view of culture, is what people, let's say for example, are wearing. Like in Saudi Arabia, we tend to wear traditional clothing, both for males and females. And one of the things that I looked at in my research was, does that have an effect on people movement? Not to mention that looking at all the data that's available for people movement, it's based on Western cultures, it's outdated from the 60s and 70s, and there's rarely any kind of specific study for, let's say, specific occupancies. And through my research, as I looked at that, actually traditional clothing does have an effect on how people move. mainly their walking speeds, let's say. And I'm talking about, let's say, like the traditional clothing for males and for females. And not to mention that also what I found out is that males in Saudi Arabia tend to walk a little bit faster. And another part forward, which is basically the pre-movement times, which deals with the perception for people when it comes to just how they perceive the fire alarm. Now, depending on the code, depending on the country, not everyone is familiar with, let's say, the temporal three. You'll find that some people are less familiar with it, which some of my research showed that here in Saudi Arabia, not a lot of people can recognize it compared to, let's say, Western cultures, especially mainly the US. Because what I looked at was Saudi Arabia and the US. And I believe that, let's say, more research is required in that area where other cultures need to do the same thing. And not to mention that people also want to look at, let's say, the perception for it. Maybe the temporal three is not the perfect thing for everyone. And I think, let's say, engineers should take that into consideration, looking at pre-movement times, understanding how long it will take for people to recognize these alarms, and also take into consideration the walking speeds whenever they're doing like egress modeling. And I believe that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. And if anyone wants to have a chat with myself and Majed post meeting, we both experienced, and I think we're probably the only people in a room to have actually evacuated from a building on fire from level 75 and walked all the way down the stairs. That was an experience in itself, and human behaviour was an interesting aspect of that. But I'm going to move on to Eiad next for a very consultant type question. It's a bit of a wishy-washy question, but very, very relevant. So when considering public awareness and the safety culture, how can this be enhanced and more aligned from emergency services all the way down to the general public?
Thank you, Peter, and assalamu alaikum all. Glad to be here. I think both gentlemen have already touched upon many of the aspects, right? Talking about human behavior, talking about the culture, the process of what's actually happening on site. But just taking a step back and thinking about more the Saudi vision of welcoming 10 million visitors a year, that's quite a number. So I would say just thinking about once people get into the airport, what are the processes of what's happening, establishing that culture through, when we were first starting this event, the the conference was like, these are the exits, be aware of it, right? When you're taking your baggage, understanding that there's a line that you respect and maintain, having that culture of safety, a unified approach by everybody, a shared message that is, humans are social creatures that will help each other. That's very important. I think one message that all organizations should kind of take in consideration is just sharing that to your employees. Those employees are the same people that are attending these events. These are the people that are also visiting other countries and cities. So just thinking about that in a sense of, humans are social creatures. They're there to help each other. They're there that if a fire event does happen, people are actually going to evacuate. People are going to help someone in need. Of course, that doesn't take into disregard standards. NFA 1600, understanding the community risk of your city, of your surrounding, and designing that into consideration. When should fire and life safety be involved in design, right? From urban planning, from pre-concept master planning, all these kind of type of consideration, how these layouts, these building stadiums are allocated is something that I would definitely maintain and something that should be pushed through. Royal commissions are established in KSA, such as Riyadh Royal Commission, Al-Ula Commission, KFD in their development. That is something that fire and life safety have already kind of have been now more and more so been a factor in determining where these assets are, the building separations, and that's in consideration. Just needs to kind of make sure that the individual, the visitor, is also taking into that same culture that is already implemented in KSA.
Yeah, you've raised some really good points there. And I think, from a consultancy point of view, we have to make some assumptions during design. And, I was just thinking, I know Majid's just recently been to America on studies. And as a person traveling on their own, their dynamics are different to when they're traveling with their family. Because obviously I know Majid would put his family first with luggage. And quite often with the simulations, you don't actually have the big wheelie trolley and the family of 4, 5, 6 people going along. So as soon as you know, an alarm goes off, people may actually want to take their luggage with them and not just leave it and walk out the door. So, you know, there's a lot of things to consider, which leads me nicely on to a question for Yaser, actually, working at Diriyah. So cultural norms and language barriers become a greater management concern with integrated tourism and increased tourism. How can this impact response and crowd management, and how can it be navigated to ensure safety for all people attending these large-scale events?
Thank you, Stephen. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. So, aligning with Kingdom Vision for 2030, that the Saudi Kingdom is going to be a hub for tourism, for business, and aligning with the Diriyah Vision also to be hospitality cornerstone for the vision. As the crowd grow larger, the number of people attending grow larger, and the number of languages that are to be used by people and the different cultures also increase. And we have to recognize that the different languages and barriers is really concern for emergency response, because the perception of emergency is a real thing, and also misunderstanding the instructions, people has to go this way or this way, and also the cultural factors like what you said. People tend to egress as families instead of individuals, and as well as have been proven by Majid's paper that the different clothing, attire, and different perception of the fire alarm, people in Western cultures tend to evacuate as soon as they hear the fire alarm. However, it is not the same for Middle East and other regions, and it tends to get longer, as well as also the segregation between males and females also will also create and delay the time of evacuation. So we have to recognize that these different barriers and factors will make the emergency response task difficult, but there are proven I would say examples, and there are proven solutions for dealing with this. And I will mention the Hajj as an example. As have been mentioned, Tawakkalna app have been designed and have been presented in multi languages, so it can help people in different languages, as well as you can send real-time notifications using such applications just to make people's life easier and easier. I will also mention Qatar World Cup, Japan Olympic Games. So also in these mega events, they have been using of pictograms, signs in different languages, as well as new technological solutions such as applications, wearable watches, smart tags, applications, real-time translations, as well as the emergency responding teams have been also adapting to the trend, and they have been training their teams in different languages. Also, if you looked at Hike last year, you will notice that different languages of emergency response people, staff people, stewards are available. They can interpret the language, they can interpret the instructions, as well as they can help the emergency response. So all those has to be used in the main protocols for emergency response, and as well as training the emergency responders in different languages. And I will mention the most critical two items, the education and communication. So the briefings and the dry drills and those emergency response preparations, and educating the people, sharing videos, sharing signs, all those will massively make things easier and easier. And it has been proven by last hike that things have been massively better using the technology and AI.
Yeah, some very interesting points there, because it almost goes full circle back to what the Dr. Ahmed said at the start, where, you know, induction, training, communication for an organized audience in the workplace through to an unorganized event crowd that haven't had induction, apart from something like, you know, Bob at the start gave us a brief overview, where are the exits, etc. But collectively, we've come to the venue and we actually don't know where all the facilities are. But in the workplace, you do actually have that. So I'm just going to sort of go, how are we on time, Bob? Oh, as long as we like. Excellent. So I'm now going to move on to same sort of themes, but I want to go back through and we've talked a little bit about risk profiling, and when we're looking at crowd management and risk management, we have to understand what actually is the risk profile, and that varies from say shipyards to CAFT, for consultants have to look at everything. So I want to go and talk a bit about new technology because that was mentioned earlier, and how can we utilize new technology to assist us in the management of crowds? Dr. Ahmed.
Yes, thank you for the question. New technology is very important in our aspect, and we cannot only depend on new technology by itself, but with the aid of expert and human, it will really improve our process and give us a good prediction for the future and for also the process and operation. Now, by using surveillance or alarming system, or even for notification. For example, there is a fog between Dammam and Ras Al Khair, where I work. And then you will receive a message in your phone if you are in that period or in that area that's saying, be careful, there is a fog during this period of time. So this is kind of alarming system to everybody. So it's an awareness for the public. If there is an incident or there is let's say a disaster somewhere, and for sure it will harm you by going there by whatever the fire or gases or by delaying you to going to work. Like for here in Riyadh, for example, some roads, and we received a notification yesterday that you need to be careful when you're coming to the event, come early. So such technology to be available for you guys and to give you a heads up, so you prepare yourself and you understand the situations. Now, there is another things which is I like to add to this. It is what we learn from our previous experience. In each project, there is usually an Excel sheet or there is a spreadsheet where people put their learning lessons. But it's very seldom that they use this learning lessons and they implement it in their risk assessment again. The risk assessment is very important asset that you can use again and again and improve your situation. We are looking for improvement, and we always look to that extra area or extra mile to improve our process and operation for the safety of the people, the business, and the asset itself.
Can I just interject there and ask you a question with regard to the recording of incidents? What about near misses? Because I'm a big believer that near misses get swept under the table, and they probably provide the best.
To me?
Yeah. Yes, please. Yes.
You have to be careful when I talk. So actually, what we have right now, all near misses, it's recorded by a system called Shock. Everybody can do that by pro code, and he will scan it and he will put it by his mobile. We will have it. We'll have around by week 3,000 near miss. Some of them, they are really relevant. So there is people, a team from my team who's segregate those according to their hazard category. And then we implement this immediately in the second day in our toolbox talk, which is 2 to 3 minutes. And we tackle it immediately. So here, it is an immediate improvement to the site. We start implementing signage in different languages to close that gap, because we've seen that some incident has been repeated.
So you're closing that gap at the time, very reactive to the dynamics.
We realize that it's not because they keep doing it by deliberately, no, but because they don't understand the concept. So we put it in their language. Then big change in the culture. Now the culture is depending on a lot of things. It's not only a training or toolbox talk. It's also messages you sent. It's involvement with people. It's understanding the background of those people to improve their culture. And this is what we are trying to do. And we are actually writing a new procedures for behavioral improvement and enhancement.
And can I push the question down to Majed, actually, because I'd like to get a bit of an insight into the the enhancements for your modeling scenarios and the such like with new technology.
I mean, when it comes to, let's say, new technologies for human behavior, you would touch on two parts. One is during the design where you're doing an egress modeling, and you have a number of models that are coming out. You got your typical network model, you have your agent-based model where you just set certain rules, And then each and every person, let's say, in the model would start moving according to those rules, and you would have an emerging behavior for all of them. And now with the introduction of AI, to be honest, like no one is looking at it at the moment, but I think there's a lot of prospect when it comes to AI and incorporating into such models. And that's, let's say, from a design point of view for afterwards when the building is designed or when you have the event itself. There's a number of technologies right now where you also have AI starting to coming in it, where through modeling, through just observing people, through cameras and things like that, you have a program that will look at and it would gives you indicators on when there's going to be, let's say, the possibility for a crush effect happening here, if there is congestion here, that it needs to be addressed right away in order for you to avoid kind of like any kind of injuries for the people. So through that, but I think AI has potential to help. I just hope that it doesn't get, everything gets labeled to it with AI, like everything right now online. And if you want to sell your product, just say, well, I can do AI without having the proper, let's say, validation through experiments or through with other models.
Yeah, I think that I'm chuckling to myself actually, because I'm just thinking, should consultants put in their exclusions no AI or chat GPT, or an assumption that that has been used? I'll put that sort of question back to you, Ian.
We never use ChatGPT, so just a disclaimer right there.
You want to try it, actually? It told me this morning there's 30 million travelers this year.
So that's an assumption exclusion on all of that. So don't worry about that. But one thing that as both has been speaking, is I kept thinking about the Hajj pilgrimage, where part of the Hajj is a jamarat, where you throw the stone at the different stones. Back in, I would say 5 years back, or even more so, the dates just escape me, but it used to be a land where it was typical rocks, the three rocks that we know, and it was just one floor. That caused, with the influx of Muslims coming into Hajj, more than 2,000 people have been crushed in that area because of the crowd behavior at different events. When we're talking about going to a Hajj or going to a concert, I'm sorry, it's not the same, of course, but it's the different human behavior that's taken in consideration. It's completely different. So what has been done is, we didn't have AI back then. We weren't able to kind of accommodate and understand the behaviors of the different people and inputs of the data. 2,000 have passed away, but the lessons learned from that is they built about 5 different levels, where now they go from different areas, and AI supports through CCTV and control and the amount of people that are going in for exactly. So that's Hajj has become a benchmark. A lot of areas in KSA has become a benchmark, and I think AI is gonna take the next step upwards to how we can actually better, more a level of service, right? Is like not just preventing fatality, but the smoothness of egress, and that's where I believe AI could support.
Yes, sir, please.
If I can add one amazing practice that I have noticed during Hajj and Umrah, and it has nothing to do with AI, the segregation of crowds and controlling the crowds before it gets to big numbers. And I've seen this in Hajj, in Umrah, and you just segregate the people, make sure that certain number of people goes in, and as soon as those people start to get out, then you just let out the another group. And also AI, if AI will be used, it will help you in counting the numbers that are going in and counting the numbers that are going out, and ensure maintaining the numbers within the range. Also, this is a practice have been established before the AI, and it's amazing. It's just helping controlling the crowds.
Very quickly, Dr.
Just like to add to my colleagues, it's brilliant, whatever you say, really. Now, understanding the event, it's if you understand it well, you make a good judgment. Now, well, this is one thing. Second, it is collaboration. So now you will, in Saudi government, there is a lot of ministry who is working in Hajj and Umrah. And musical events in Riyadh, also there is a lot of ministries going to work in that, and other association, entity, and volunteers. Now, meeting with those guys, delegating those tasks to them and let them understand exactly what they want to do. Probably that the things will enhance their performance, and then you will have a smooth process and operation in the end of the day. Learning from all of those background mistakes, like those 200,000 deaths and whatever the things happening, all of this stuff is giving us a better opportunity in the future. By,
just to correct that, 2000.
2000,
2000,
sorry. 2000, yeah, 2000, sorry. So all of this stuff, it is really an improving things for us, and it's an opportunity for better management for the events. Crisis management, it is one thing. Leadership, both they are really the key value here to implement every time, and drilling my task several times, making me the best person to do that task and do it perfectly. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Thank you very much. How are we on time, Bob? Time to go. So I'd just like to thank the panel, and just the last part of the discussion there was really sort of, I think, looking at the dynamics of risk profiling. And, you know, if we as consultants and engineers and look at the design, make sure the construction of the building is correct, and we get to the end user who has the building for its longevity, we must ensure that civil defence have the right facilities and information when they turn up at an incident to dynamically manage that with the managers on site. So thanks again to the panel, and thank you for bearing with us. Thank you.